real highlight of our event, the dessert. Can we give this restaurant a round of applause? What an amazing job they did, and what an amazing turnout. I did not know Montgomery County had this many Republicans. This is me saying that as someone who was born here. I was born in Rockville, 97. So I make my happy return today. You know, it's funny. I get a lot of questions. And from a lot of Republicans, conservatives, Asian American parents who care about their children, because who doesn't? And the main question I get is, how did you leave liberalism? And I just look at them and I say, you don't understand. I was never a liberal. It just doesn't compute. And then the other question that I always get is, why do Asian Americans always vote for Democrats? And I say, not the ones who know math. So today we join this Lunar New Year celebration of Chinese culture, a civilization that has existed for tens of thousands of years before the Communist Party took it over and destroyed its culture. And culture is why I'm so passionate about this issue that we're facing in America today. Culture matters, ladies and gentlemen. Culture matters. It is the foundation of a civilization. Whether it survives, whether it thrives, whether it falls and crumbles into the ground. You know, for many thousands of years, China was sustained as a unified nation, a gigantic country by land area and population, sustained as a unified nation because of one word: meritocracy. Meritocracy. That means in China they used to have examinations to become part of the civil service, which was the administrative element that administrated, positions and policies and everything like that. And because of the success of that, it was such a successful government operation system because any person who had the merits, who had the talent, who could write, who could read, who could do math, who could do the abacus, back in the day. They didn't have Microsoft back then. Who could do the abacus, they could apply, and they would be awarded the position on the basis of their merit, not on the basis of their family lineage, not on the basis of the proximity to the emperor. And this system worked very well for a long time. I'm not saying there weren't flaws, but it did work well, and it helped to build up Chinese culture because it created a culture of excellence. We are facing a crisis in America today about our culture of excellence. The left infiltrating our institutions, from Harvard University, the supposed epitome of excellence, to our public school systems, to our corporations. Ladies and gentlemen, we are replacing our culture of excellence with a culture of victimhood. And my book, An Inconvenient Minority, which I will happily sign for you, is about what happens when a country interrupts its principles of excellence, even to a small degree. Let me tell you why this is important. Let me tell you the story of how this all started with Harvard University. So Harvard University, right, we like to say, oh, this is a great, this is a great college that attracts the best, the brightest, and the smartest, right? It should be, admissions should be based on a meritocracy, right? It should be based on the talent that you can provide, right? But Harvard is a different way of viewing what's going on, of viewing their admissions process. Harvard wants to build up its own brand. And in order to build up its own brand, what is its brand? Elite, right? We're prestigious. We have the best connections. We give you the best things in life. You join us, you can be a part of our elite. So therefore, Harvard does not necessarily want to admit people based on merit. They want to admit people based on connections, on social status, and their own sense of moral virtue. So did you guys know that 34% of Harvard admissions are legacies, for example? 34%. But on the other side, they of course don't want to be seen as like they don't want to be seen as a college that is just for elite privileged white people. So they want to admit people from certain underrepresented backgrounds like Black Americans, Hispanic Americans, Americans of LGBTQ status, everything like that. And so they preferentially admit these people. So they preferentially admit privileged legacy people, and they preferentially admit Black people, Hispanic people, and others who belong into oppressed categories. So who loses out? Who's the loser? Oh! Somebody has to lose out, and it is Asian Americans. Asian Americans have to score 440 points higher on the SAT to have the same chance of admission as a Black person, and 150 points higher to have the same chance of admission as a white person. This is discrimination, folks. This is discrimination. But it's discrimination that reveals a very important reality in the way that the left views the world. The way that the left views the world is not based on talent, it's not based on merit, it's based on your face. It's based on your background. We're moving, Harvard's philosophy is what looks good for them, what builds up the brand, for Harvard. No matter how divorced from reality that brand is, Harvard's going to attempt to build up its brand as much as possible. So that means if highly qualified, highly talented Asian Americans who lack social connections, who lack generational wealth, who lack an ability to give Harvard what it wants, comes in and says, well, I actually believe that with my merit and my talents, I can solve the next big math problem, or I can build the next spaceship, or I can become the next great writer if I can take advantage of your resources, Harvard's $50 billion endowment. Harvard says, nope, we want to give it to someone with a different face, with a different looking face. And Harvard's mentality is emblematic of the direction that our country is heading. We are moving from a country that treats people on the basis of just what you can contribute in this country, to a country where you are going to be judged based on your background. Who likes that? Who wants that? Do I see a hand? Okay, nobody likes that, right? Nobody likes that. I don't like that. You don't like that. Nobody likes that. So let me back up just for a second, and let me tell you Okay, so how did Asians get to this place in the first place, where now they're the ones being discriminated on the basis of diversity, equity, and inclusion? Our favorite corporate words. Our favorite corporate words. Who here works in a, or has worked in a government position? Okay, who here has had to take diversity, equity, and inclusion training? Who here liked diversity, equity, and inclusion training? No one! No one! No one likes this. No one likes this. Why? Because people aren't racist. They really aren't. 96% of Americans believe that it is perfectly all right for their kid to live next to a person of a different race. 93% of Americans believe it is okay, perfectly okay for their kid to marry somebody of a different race. Does that sound racist to you? No, it's not racist. But by fomenting this race resentment narrative, Harvard is able to get away with things like, in order to combat systemic racism, we need to preferentially admit people of a certain race. So there's an entire industry, the DEI industry, Harvard, whatever you want to call it, that thrives off of this race narrative. That's what you guys should know. But anyway, I wanted to back up, especially to Asian Americans, So how did Asian Americans get to this place where they're the ones discriminated by Harvard in the name of diversity, equity, and inclusion? Okay. Asian Americans in this country have basically what I want to say, they've come on too fast and too strong for Harvard's tastes. So what do I mean by this? What was the first word I talked about? Culture. Okay. With no social connections, with no generational wealth, Asian Americans came to this country with maybe $10 in their pocket, $15 in their pocket. You know, every Asian says it differently. I came with $17 in my pocket or something like that. But the truth is, it is true. Most Asians come here with no money, no wealth, and yet, in one generation, their kids graduate from college at a higher rate than even white people. An incredible story. This is an incredible story. How do they do it? So I went to the great mystic mountain, and I opened the scroll of truth in the forbidden palace of answers, and I pled with the genie, "Reveal to me, O genie, this answer. How do Asians do it?" And the genie said back to me, "Hard work." Asian Americans study twice as many hours as the average American. And that is something that should be celebrated, not discriminated against. Asian Americans place high values on their education. For good reason, right? Because when you come to this country and you don't have any wealth, you don't have any generational privilege, how are you going to succeed in this country? You do the one thing you know you can control, and that is your own education and your son or your daughter's education. And Asian Americans take advantage of that. They study way past, their peers in these kinds of things. And by the way, it's not their race that makes them hard workers. It's not their race that makes them successful. These are values that anybody of any race can put into themselves and become successful. And you know what Asian Americans also do that the left really hates? They completely blow up their narrative of systemic racism. Because, well, why are you clapping? I haven't even told you. How could a racist country let this group of minorities get ahead of white people? And yet Asian Americans have higher socioeconomic incomes and higher bachelor's degree attainment than even white people. Sounds like a racist country to me. I'll tell you what. It's because America, and sometimes I'll tell you why people think in these lens, though, in these racially dichotomized lens. I'll tell you why. Because there is anxiety. You have to understand, as a minority, you come into this country and most people around you don't look like you. And I get it. There is anxiety. Among my second generation Asian peers, a lot of them do feel, regardless of reality, they do feel like they are marginalized or that issues in their life stem from their race. There's no doubt about that. And I'm sure it's the same for other minorities as well, for blacks, for Hispanics, for Native Americans, everything like that. I totally get it. But guess what? Harvard's policies make it all worse. Make it all worse to these Asian Americans because all they want to do is they want to study hard and they want to take advantage of the opportunities afforded to themselves. And this college that their parents and people around them and they are dreaming of to get the best education that they deserve says you're not good enough. And by the way, there's nothing you can do to change that. Just because you look this way, we're going to treat you harder. And I hear stories of my own peers and my own friends who deal with this in a variety of ways. When I was in high school, I had a friend who was the most brilliant science student in the class. His name was Sam. And he was the, he took the highest level courses, just aced them all. He did everything he could. He did the math team. He was really great, and he wanted to study with the best professors. He wanted to study with the best science professors in Princeton, and Princeton gave him this rejection letter at the same time that Princeton gave people in that same science class who everybody knew were nowhere near as good as this guy. They gave them acceptance letters. And you know what it does to someone's mind? And then Princeton and Harvard claim that their admission is a meritocracy. Oh, they claim, we're evaluating the top talent when they're doing these explicit race-based practices. And you know how that messes with someone's mind? You know how it makes them question themselves? You know how it makes them hate their own skin color, their own race, everything like that? We need to end race divisions, folks. That's it. And by the way, who loses? By the way, everybody in this room today, I know you guys are extremely patriotic and love your country, but remember what we're fighting for. We're fighting for the American dream, which says one simple thing. It doesn't matter what country you come from. It doesn't matter what your background is. It doesn't matter what race you profess to be. You're going to be treated on the basis of what you can contribute, not on the basis of where you're from. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the American dream. That is what we're fighting for here. That is what the Republican Party and all great Americans could stand for. That's what brings immigrants teeming to these shores every day and every night. That is what we believe in today. That is what I'm fighting for. That is my book. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.